Hi there, everybody. This is Mark Bromley, your favorite artist and author of the Yoranthium book series. And today I would like to introduce to you a painting that I created for the minor book of a manga idea, or a picture book, basically, for the history of the sea elves, their birth and how they came to being, the mythological version, not the actual version. The actual version will be in the Yoranthium book series later in the books to tell you actually how they truly came about. But this one is the mythos that they cling to on the Isle of Yoranthium. You can see when you read the 10-page book, that's how many pages it actually is, just 10 pages, and then I made a whole bunch of pictures for it. You'll see that there's a lot of inconsistencies with that story. And well, that's the truth about most mythologies. When you have a mythology, there's a lot of inconsistencies. And that's the whole point for this. And you're probably saying that this artwork is rather basic, rather fundamental. Yes, it is. The whole purpose of this artwork was to convey the elven art form of a more ancient time of their ukiyo-e techniques. Ukiyo-e is a Japanese woodcut technique for printmaking, which was highly efficient at its time in comparison to a lot of other printmaking processes that were in Europe compared to what was going on in Japan and stuff. There was you can tell that the manga, the comic book printmaking method was actually mostly in Japan at that time, while the European methods of printmaking were a lot more craftsman illustrator quality in comparison to ukiyo-e. Ukiyo-e was already the fundamental printmaking designs for creating comic books, or on the process of creating comic books. That's basically what you could actually say that that ukiyo-e is the foundation of modern manga. You could say that. And what I was doing here in this particular picture was that I had a time constraint where I had only 68 hours to create each picture for the 10 pages that I wrote about the sea elf mythology. Now, the goal of this was to actually create all this artwork and the book within the span of 1 week. That's what I gave myself. It ended up being about a week and a half, but uh, so I was over my deadline. I was trying to keep a deadline to it, about 1 week, because I was watching some things about the modern manga industry, and there was this person bragging about how quick they were and how fast they were, but they were being given drafts. They were being given hand-drawn draft draft quality work, which means it was light lines, light pencil stuff, like I showed you in the earlier pictures. You've seen 3 earlier pictures for the Yoranthium book series where I showed you the Bastille of Peace, and then I showed you the city street scene for the day of the wedding, and then I showed you the future book series idea and concept for Lower Kenilworth. You've seen those 3 drawings that I did. There's more of them. There's a lot more of them. And well, those are concepts. Those are all concept arts because they're just drawn in pencil, really light. And when you take it over to a computer, you can darken it. It was the same thing I was seeing with this manga creator through the NHK News source, and they were showing the manga thing because they were, uh, or was it? It could have been on YouTube actually. Let me erase the roll back on that. That's actually on YouTube, and they were taking credit for creating the whole art piece, but in fact they were just tracing the lines in a darker, blacker ink. They weren't even coloring it. They were just doing black ink. And that was the only stage that they were at. So there was the drawing, and then there was the person that inked it, and then they would send it to somebody that would color it. And somewhere between those processes, there's probably a couple of proofers. So there's like the initial artist, a proofer, and then it goes on to the inker, and then another proofer, and then it goes to coloring, and then it goes to another proofer, and then it either gets accepted or rejected at the final stage, if they think they can fit it into their filming process, which means that there was this one drawing in the manga book that they were doing in Japan could have actually gone through 10 to 20 people's hands before it actually got published into a book. And it was only one frame. It was only one frame. They weren't working on multiple frames. Not at all. Now, I designed this one to be based on a fighting scene. I forget the name of the artist because I ran into the artist. He had a wonderful art style. He was in the Middle Ages. That's where the artist lived at that time. And this is his. He created a lot of these fighting stances that I just basically freehand drew from looking at those images in order to convey the aesthetics of the Middle Ages within this fight scene, within this elven fight scene. And I only got to basically 5 pairs. You can count them: one, two, three, four, five pairs. There's only 10 figures that I actually ended up drawing. And, I only have 6 hours to this. So I did research, found some Middle Age artwork that had fight scenes so I can emulate this style of the 15th century, of what an artist would be creating in the 15th century. And apparently this was used in an actual training manual for grappling and grasping and stuff. I know it's kind of strange because they got a knife in this guy's leg, and there's a couple of weapons being thrown about and stuff like that. So was it really training, or was it a little bit more than that? It was probably a little bit more. And I just wanted to convey imagery right there that this is in the Middle Ages. This is likely a ukiyo-e print in the sea elf style of doing prints and stuff. And if you wanted to, yes, this could be turned into a ukiyo-e. I could literally ukiyo-e this and put it on and print it on a piece of paper. I could literally do that if I wanted to, because the colors are very simple. They're very common. They're very basic, and I wanted it that way on purpose so I could make it. So I could actually literally turn this into a Japanese woodcut style print if I wanted to. Of course, the inks might look a little bit different because of the methods that I might actually employ if I did convert it to ukiyo-e, but it would probably look a lot more authentic if I actually did the ukiyo-e method. But I was doing this on the computer because I had to work quick. I had 6 hours, 6 to 8 hours to actually produce these artworks, and had a deadline about a week. Um, so the story was quick and fast because I had to create that within 6 hours. And then I had to create the artworks all within 6 hours, and there was like 24 of them. The primary set was 24. I did make plans to actually create 48 of them, but I couldn't get any funding to actually encourage that kind of creativity into the book series. So I pretty much dropped this book, and it's never going to be produced. Uh, I started getting cyberbullies. I started getting a bunch of hostile people that were expecting a higher quality, and they started going on Reddit and making fun of my pictures. They even stole my artwork and took it over to Imager, and they started showing off my artwork to other people, mocking me, making fun of me. And these are political people in the North Korea of North Glen, Colorado that were doing this. And it was just really evil of them to do such things, and really completely inappropriate because they didn't understand the actual time commitment to actually making this kind of art. And that's the thing about art. It takes time. You can sit down an artist, you can ask them to do things for 30 minutes or 45 minutes or an hour, but you're not going to get the highest quality. You're not going to get something that's actually really, really great. You're just going to get something. It could be anything. It might look nice. It might look nice. It might actually make it. It might make that cut in about 30 minutes and stuff. But yeah, it's working under the gun. It's working under the whip, and it's not fun. It's not enjoyable. And artists don't like working that quick because there's a lot to the ideas and the concepts within these artworks. Now, here, what could be in this artwork that's so complicated? Well, first of all, you have to get the poses right. You have to get the grappling down. You have to get the uh, arms, the hands down. You have to get the lengths right. You have to try to keep it proportionally so it looks good. Uh, then you have to space it, design it. Each one of these, each pair, fighting pair, was an individual drawing, and then it was brought into a whole through. So there's some technical manipulation here to bring in these images to cover one another and be the appropriate scale, so it gives you a little bit of depth to it. And then, you had a shade underneath it. I guess the shading on this was actually quite easy. I kind of did it rather quickly, and it was a lot easier than that. And then, in the background, I'm just repeating the same image about 3 times. So there's a mid ground, there's a forward ground, there's a mid ground, and then there's a background. And then behind that, you have the atmosphere of dark clouds and a storm on the horizon because you want to convey that information. So creating that cloudy looking kind of form is not a simple, easy form to do. You need to actually get the right appearance of that. And working on that did take some time and effort just for the clouds themselves. And then you had the foreground, and creating that foreground took a little bit of effort. It's actually a reused foreground that I created for some earlier pictures. And then I enhanced the color uh, differentiation for that one. And then you have to have footprints all over the place because they're scuffling. So you have to make it look like a scuffle. So you have to bring on the whole entire thing, create the scuffle. I think I excelled in what it was initially supposed to be, like a 15th century rendition. Uh, so I exceeded the initial artist because all he did, the initial artist, he only created the forms, the fighting forms, and I wanted to convey that so I can bring the 15th century back into the 21st century. So going back like 6 centuries in artwork, and what would have been considered good art to bad art, and it's basically what you're looking at, and that's what I wanted to convey. So I wanted to give a sense of authenticity to what the imagery would look like, and so that actually took a lot of research in creating this fantastic piece. A lot of people don't actually see the how much work actually went into that because they don't understand the art styles. They don't want to understand the art styles. They don't want to understand art history. They don't want to know how art through the centuries evolved, came from very basic stuff to much more complicated concepts and how it all comes in together. And when you can do ukiyo-e work and you want to convey that practice of ukiyo-e in a different alien kind of way, this came out incredibly well. All in all, I would say that this is actually quite masterful in the implementation of a repetitive design elements that go throughout the whole entire work. Of course, a lot of people said, well, you could have changed the colors of the shirts and the colors of the people all over the place. Yeah, well, yeah, I could have, but then again, that would probably defeat the purpose of ukiyo-e. If you ever did any kind of printmaking process, every single time you change or transition a color means a new print has to be made, a new board has to be made. The There is currently right now in this, just the skin tones alone are three. There are three skin tones. Three skin tones are actually represented in that. That means 3 wood frames would have to be made just for the 3 skin tones alone. On top of that, when you get to the clothing, we see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 7 different colors in the clothing. So 3 skin tones, 7, that's 10. 10 wood blocks have to be made for this print. At least. That's 10. That's 10 wood blocks already. So there's 10 little wood blocks you would actually have to create for this piece. How big is this piece going to be? Can you make it a small? Can you save space on the amount of wood that you have to use for these prints by making it small? Is it going to fit into a book? Oh, well, if so, then you can actually save a lot of wood with those 10 prints, but now you're working smaller and smaller. But now if you wanted this thing to be like 6 foot by 4 foot, well, that's huge. And 10 6 foot by 4 foot panels, if you were printing it, that literally that size, because somebody wanted a big, huge ukiyo-e print like this, talking about considerable amount of work and effort having to be put in. You're talking about months of work just to make this into a 6 foot by 4 foot print using the ukiyo-e technique. Of course, you might have to enlarge everything, like get a big, huge rubbing pad in order to make it, just use it larger, get big brushes. Now you're getting into a whole production mess that many people in the arts have no clue or no comprehension and no understanding of. And this is what pisses me off the most about these morons I've ran against in politics who are bad educators here in the state of Colorado, claiming that they're artists when they don't really actually see the full scope of what a ukiyo-e print would entail. Hell, let's not even worry about the ukiyo-e print. Let's talk about the more European printmaking methods. You guys know about the European printmaking methods? You know about let's see, etchings in copper, metal, using metal, etching in metal, soft metal like copper. Yeah, getting a copper plate is not as easy as you think to get to etch into. I mean, you can get pages, paper size ones, but if you had to go 4 foot by 6 foot for 10 of those, yeah, you're gonna have to go with 10 of those. Yeah, it's gonna get a lot more difficult to do an intaglio of multiple different colors. So what would you be stuck with? You would be stuck with one panel in black and white, conveying the sense of gradients and shading through cross-hatching and lines. Now, I shouldn't get into the whole entire art process because there are some bona fide idiots when it comes to the modern world and the artist and the arts. As you can see, I created an earlier video of a stolen artwork of mine called Homelessness, and I applied for the housing insecurity grant here in Adams County via the CAFE program, the Call for Entry program by Westaff out of Denver. Now, Westaff pisses me off. Call for Entry pisses me off now too because they picked an artist based on racism and discrimination. That's how they hired her. They followed Disney, they followed the cult of woke, they followed Hollywood when they hired this proof-less, inane, incompetent artist who went out and found one homeless person and had him sit in a pose similar to my painting and have legs walking in front of the framework. I mean, when you watch the video, it's completely choreographed according to my artwork that I made in 2021. So my artwork's the initial draft. It's the conceptual illustration of what they created into a video piece to mock me and make fun of me. And those are idiots, like Julie Malika, a complete idiot. She has no appreciation of art. Uh, Another idiot is this Leidy here, in the mayor of Northglenn here, North Korea, the mayor of North Korea, Northglenn. Yeah, Leidy. She is not an artist. She has no appreciation for art itself. She has no understanding. Her Belmar Art School is a lie. It's a joke. It's not even about the arts. Because if she understood an inkling about art, then she would understand the difficulty of the printmaking processes that I just described, like ukiyo-e, intaglio, embossing. They would understand that, to make those kind of possible prints that you see like in books that like Escher, like an Escher print, there were several steps and stages, a lot of expensive tooling that goes into, and inks, expensive inks as well, because the ink making process is not that easy either. All these processes are very complicated in the art world. All these methods are very complicated, even in manga. In manga, there's a whole chain of people working as a group to produce just one frame, and it's time consuming. I mean, the person who came up with the line drawing, I tell you, those line drawings don't make themselves. They take imagination, they take creativity, they take a lot of thought, especially when you're doing like city streets and city buildings, because you have to think about what should the bricks look like, what should the towers look like, what's the function of these towers, what's the doors look like, how big would these things be, what would the scale of this be. You got it built into a mountain, so you have to have some crags along the mountain frame. What what keeps people from climbing these cliffs? They're carved, things like that. And when you're creating underground cities, same thing. Where do they get their water? Where do they get their food? Where do they live? How does their structure of these buildings exist, and why do they exist? Where did it all come from? Those are thoughts that you have to think about as well while you're creating these pieces. So they're actually rather intricate, very complicated, just like this artwork right here that I did within about 6 to 8 hours. And this is complicated. If I wanted to convert this into ukiyo-e, I could. I was satisfied because I met those requirements of being able to turn this into a ukiyo-e painting if I wanted to. But you have to realize I did like 3 different layers, which means there's going to be well over 20, 21, maybe upwards towards 30 different panels that would have to be made in order to reproduce this image in a ukiyo-e style. It could probably be simplified. I'm not like a master ukiyo-e practitioner. I'm probably pretty amateurish at best, so it'd probably take me a lot of frames. And one that's really good at ukiyo-e could probably see ways of speeding this up and simplifying the process. And simplifying the process, because you always want to try to simplify the process without losing any uh, depth or interest in your artwork. But like I said, here in North Korea, Northland, Colorado, as an artist, I am definitely oppressed. I am definitely suppressed by by a hateful, harmful, destructive system, a hateful system. And I'm starting to say that Call for Entry, West Staff, and all their people are oppressors. They are hateful people because they won't give me the funding I need. They won't give me the jobs I need. They keep hiring based on Disney and Hollywood, and this is the criteria that they use for hiring. This is why it's racism, discrimination, and this is why it's not what they call it. They call it DEI, but it's not. It's discrimination, it's exclusivity, it's insensitivity, and it's ignorance. At most, that's what their DEI is: ignorance, capital I, ignorance. And well, how do they go about this? The cafe projects that I got kicked out of. Uh, they decided that one, it had to be a feminist. You had to be a feminist. Two, that means that you have to be female. That's discrimination, gender discrimination right there. Ideology discrimination, gender discrimination. And then you have to be black. That's racism. If you're deliberately hiring people because they're black, that's racism. So yeah, Adams County, racist. City of Northland, racist. Our current mayor here in North Korea, Northland, Colorado, racist, as stated with the news article in Northland Sentinel newspaper when she wanted to make it about color. No, it's about poverty. It's about the poverty people actually experience. That's what George Floyd actually represents, the effects of poverty in our society and inequality. Inequality is caused by poverty. I should know. I've lived a whole entire life in poverty here in North Korea, Northland, Colorado. And no matter what I did, no matter how hard I worked, it changed nothing. It changed absolutely nothing. The whole system here in the United States is bullshit. It is literally bullshit. But the other requirements they also made is that she had to be gay. Okay, that's also discrimination, because why are you in my bedroom? Why are you in the people's bedrooms or in their love lives? Why are you saying what type of love people must have in order to have a job? that is discrimination too. On those four counts, that is discrimination that I have been facing through the CAFE program, through West Staff, through Adams County, through North Korea, Northland, Colorado. This is discrimination against me as an artist. And then they attacked this painting. I'm going to show you another artwork that I did that was supposed to be low quality. I wasn't going for high quality on it. And they attacked me on that one too. They went onto Imager, they went onto Reddit, and they wanted to just bash me because I guess that's how the guy makes his little side hustles, by bashing people and attacking them for whatever they do. It's not actually understanding the artistic process behind it. And there is a big artistic process behind all of this. And like I said, that is that discrimination. It wasn't only that. They went with the Disney way of hiring, the cult of woke. They had to be a cult of woke. The other the sixth requirement must that they had to be Democrats. They had to be with the Democrat Party, the Nazi Socialist Democrat Party, in order to get hired. They had to have another job with the federal government, in which case this person, a couple of people they hired them because they had a job with another Democrat politician down in Denver, and she was on their payroll, working for them as a staffer or on their staff. So this is all because they're Democrats. You can have these jobs. These are the 7 discrimination terms that I realized they were using. There's 8, 9. I mean, they have to be like hiring like Disney. They have to be hiring like Hollywood. This is discrimination. This is just racism. A highly qualified artist such as myself that has a lot of knowledge that's been put on under way too much pressure to constantly perform under ridiculous requirements, ridiculous standards that are just impossible to produce any art. I mean, just to want to do art and stuff like that, it's crippling. It's actually infuriating. It's crippling. Causes a lot of mental anguish. It causes anxiety. And it causes and creates depression. This is what they were doing. They had weaponized the call for entry, West Staff, the arts of Denver and Colorado and across the United States. They have weaponized it as a political tool for who? The Nazi Soros and the Nazi Democrats to get their globalist. Actually, I guess they should be called Gadzis right now. Change the N with G because they're globalist socialists. They've gone from National Socialists to globalist socialists through the WEF, BlackRock, and a bunch of other Nazi-type organizations that want to oppress people. I mean, look at Schwab speak. When you see Schwab talk for the World Economic Forum, that's straight up Nazi. When you see Soros speak, straight up goddamn Nazi. And he tries to hide under the uh, image that he's a Jewish person. You know, even in World War II, many Jewish people, just to survive, betrayed their own people. Betrayed their own people and put them on those trains and sent them to those camps. Better them, better somebody else go to those camps than themselves, right? Yeah, George Soros is one of those kind of Jewish people. Better somebody else die instead of himself. And that he did it to many people. Yeah, he worked shoulder to shoulder with the Nazis. He's a child of the Nazis. He definitely is. He even had access to identification processes within that government. And to have that kind of access to identification processes, yeah, you're working for that government. You're doing exactly what they want you to do. And so, yeah, that makes him exactly what he is. And so for him to run around and try to call people anti-Semitic, and I have to say that I've seen that smear be used in Democrat campaigns here in the state of Colorado. And all I have to say is, you know what? I'm not Jewish. Don't push your beliefs on me. Don't try to put your values on me either. Because you know what? My favorite people are Jewish people. I like Fran Drescher. I like The Nanny. I like that show. I like MASH. So I liked Alan Alda. Uh, Jamie Farr, who played Klinger. And yeah, I used Klinger as one of my aliases once. Yep, that was me. And yeah, I like Jewish people just fine. But if you ever call me anti-Semitic, then I'm going to bitch slap you in the mouth because you know what? I'm not anti-Semitic. I'm not Jewish. So keep your own opinions to yourself and don't try to force your belief on me because I'm not going to believe that way that you want. I like your people. I like the Jewish people. Some of my favorite actors and actresses are all Jewish people. Some of my favorite people in real life are Jewish people. Not once have they ever called me anti-Semitic. Not once. But lately in politics, the Nazi Democrats, they use it left and right as a smear campaign. Well, we're not Jewish. Okay? Get your beliefs out of your head. Be human. Treat people with respect. Don't be calling them names like that. And this is where my name calling started up with against these Nazi Democrats that I ran into. Nazi Democrat Kaya Malika, Nazi Democrat Julie Malika, Nazi Democrat Jenny Wilford, Nazi Democrat Lady. Terrible people, awful people, nightmarish people. Made nothing but nightmares for people. They came online. They were part of the cyberbullies. Then they went on to Reddit. They went on to other sites and started bashing my artwork behind my back. They were on Imager doing it too. And then they discriminated against me through Cafe, through West Staff here in Denver, Colorado. That was just straight up discrimination. 7 categories of discrimination. I just reviewed that. They actually went into. And this artwork right here was one of them that they put under attack because they felt that I used the same images over and over too much. Repetition. Well, in ukiyo-e, repetition is good. Sometimes it's encouraged because, you know, the artwork is quite elaborate. There's a lot of work to do it. Most of the time they try to limit the colors to 3 because that means 3 panels. One being black, one being a light color, one being a dark color, and then trying to throw that all together while you do a bunch of gradients and shading techniques with the black through lines and images and you know, hash marks. That's what you can do. But now this one's complicated. This would be over 30 panels that would have to be made, which means you would have to key slot every single panel to match them all up and get them aligned, and then you'd have to test it out each time you create a new one. That does it fit? Does it fit? Does it tightly fit into what you already created? Because there's always a slight deviation in the board if you don't get it right. And the more you work in a certain media, the better you are at it. The least you work in it, the more difficult it becomes to actually do that. So a lot of people really didn't appreciate what I actually created here because they can actually see the art for what it is because they don't understand art. They want comic books. They want something that a printer can print. That's the only thing that they can understand now, even though they don't even understand the printer is flawed as well. No matter how high quality of a printer you got, there's still flaws within it. And they can't see it because they've never done printmaking, so they don't know. Their own ignorance in art exceeds them. And this is why I tell you that art requires math, it requires reading, it requires science, it requires knowledge. If you're saying as an artist, you're the dumbest person on the planet and you know nothing about math, you know nothing about reading, you know nothing about science, but yet you call yourself an artist, you're a fraud. You're a fraud. That's right, you're a fraud. A real artist is always studying. A real artist is self-disciplined, self-accomplished, and frequently a true homeschooler. That's what a true artist really actually is, a true homeschooler for life. Because you will always have books around you. You will always have piles of papers, piles of books, piles of information because you are reading all the time. That is why a local library in North Korea, Northland, Colorado should exist. That every local city should have a library in a central place so people can go and study new information, new knowledge, new technology. We don't have that here in North Korea, Northland anymore. We did when I was a kid, and I benefited greatly from that kind of experience. And a lot of artists would experience a better quality work if they have access to knowledge, if they do well in math, if they do well in science, if they do well at reading, they will do well as an artist. But if you're saying that an artist doesn't need any of that stuff, you don't have an artist. You just have pity. You have charity. An artist is not something to pity or to be charitable about. An artist is something to praise as the highest form of science and knowledge and understanding and reasoning. That's what an artist actually is. And that's why you have to accept their homeschooling as well, because that's what an artist does. How much money does an artist make as for these paintings? I haven't made nothing on this artwork of mine, because that's how cheap and stingy North Korea, United States of America actually is. So goddamn stingy. It will not pay me a single thing. It won't even give me a job through Call of Arts that actually pays me enough money to actually help fund my vision of an art studio, to fund the ability to actually have access to the resources I need to actually truly do fantastic work in the ukiyo-e technique that I actually know how to do, the book binding and book printing technique that I know how to do. It gives me no access to any of that stuff. And without that kind of access, I can't accomplish anything. Nothing gets done. And they keep me in this kind of poverty, in this kind of oppression, in this kind of tyranny of the North Korea of the United States of America, because they want compliance with their programs, with their harmfully hateful programs, their racist programs, their Nazi programs. And they let a fraud like Soros and his fraudulent Nazi emerge group have so much power in the state of Colorado. Anyways, this is very good artwork. This is the fight scene of the birth of the sea elves. These are mainlander elves fighting each other, slaves and masters, and well, I guess guards, soldiers who were transporting them, trying to make a little business off the slave trade back in Yoranthium. We're going to be talking about that in book 3, the Land of the Potentates. So stay tuned for the Yoranthium book series. Go get it. I talk a lot about art, literature, writing, science, technology, politics, all in the Yoranthium book series, and it's all in a well-crafted, decent story that reads like high fantasy and fiction and science fiction, but in reality, it's a great story. Thank you very much. I'm Mark Bromley. I know these things get a little long. I meant to make this short, but they keep getting longer. And I hope you find some meaning in what I'm talking about and what I'm saying. And well, you have a great day. You have a fantastic day. Let's try to work together to improve the world, to tear down these terrible, oppressive tyrants and regimes of incorrect faculty. And we can change that to a higher level of education through math, science, art. Art is the highest science. A lot of people like to laugh about that. They don't think that that's true, but it is. You're just looking at the wrong artists. Look towards the artists that actually tell you that there's a higher science to it. And when they tell you why, they'll tell you because of art history. They'll tell you because of artists like Escher, printmakers, ukiyo-e artists over in Japan. The technicalities behind all this artwork and how art comes to be has a history. And that's what was conveyed in this picture. The Middle Ages, and some artists from an obscure artist from the Middle Ages came up with these poses to train people how to fight. I think he was a little violent because he has like knives in people's legs flying around. All people have knives everywhere. How to do a hold with a person that has a knife and put him in a chokehold there. See, look, chokeholds. Look how effective chokeholds are. Yeah, chokeholds do stop people with knives from being able to use them effectively. And that's something that you have to realize that, yeah, even in this, even like, Bruce Lee came to the United States, his wife did a whole bunch of books based on his positions, his fighting stances. Her artwork was somewhat reminiscent of the Middle Ages. And yeah, It's actually a valid form of art, and this is a tribute to the artist that actually gave me the idea to use these images. I like to think that artists, when I dig through my notes, my reference materials, I'll find his name again, and then I'll pay tribute to him appropriately, because yeah, you did a really good job and inspired me to do a really great work of art as well. And if you guys are interested, wouldn't mind putting that book together for the picture book. I do need help and resources. If you guys want to start donating for that purpose, you can donate. You can go to my Patreon. You can go to my website. You can contact me through Gmail, and we'll work on a project together, a real project. I mean, I'm starting to realize I can't rely on call for entry. I can't get the West staff to actually give me quality. They won't give me fairness. They won't give me fair representation at all because the people that are there have been programmed. They've been indoctrinated and groomed with some terrible ideologies, and it's and what they're actually engaged in is racism, discrimination, hate crimes of all kinds, and it's why I've been left in poverty for over a decade. Why I'm not given being having access to any of the resources I need. And I'm an honorable veteran. I'm an honorable U.S. veteran, and they won't help me one bit. These Democrats won't help me. They will hurt me, but they won't help me. They made that clear. Anyways, I'm Mark Bromley, author and artist of your Yoranthium book series. Like, subscribe, and help fund my campaign to get better artwork, get better materials. You know, I could do Blender stuff, but I don't have the graphics card. So if you want me to get a better computer, I need some money. If you want me to get better graphics, I need some money. If you want me to get his artwork just as good as like James Cameron's artworks in his movies and stuff like that, then I need some money. I need real money that makes it possible. But so far, all I know is the North Korea of the United States of America, forced poverty, forced oppression, forced hatred, because of a bunch of idiots that don't understand art, and they're teaching it over at Belmar. The real idiots down there at Principal Belmar, total moron, total idiot, pretending to be an artist, and she is not. She is a fraud because she doesn't understand the real technical difficulties of actually doing art. And she can't teach it either. And I feel sorry for all those children being lied to and deceived at her elementary school. And it angers me to know that children are being abused through the arts. It's just terrible. It's awful. Anyways, I hope the art organization over in Atlanta that met with her, I hope that you guys figure out a way to hold her accountable and kick her out of the school system because she is really doing more damage to the arts than anything else. She doesn't belong there. Anyways, long story short, I'm Mark Bromley. I need some help here, and I'm not getting it from the North Korea that I live here in every single day. The oppression and the tyranny I lived under here in this garbage state of Colorado, and these oppressive Democrats. I probably wouldn't get it in a Republican state either. They made that pretty clear as well. So I'm unaffiliated. Thank you very much. You guys all have a great day. I'm Mark Bromley. I'll talk to you later.